Welcome, everyone, to Chicago Football Connection podcast. The first time we've ever actually been on time, so that's an achievement. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears, joined by my co-host, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. Today, we're continuing our positional preview. We're doing cornerbacks today, so draft, free agency, trades, whatever we could think of. Obviously, cornerback is not really the first need you think of when you talk about the Bears, but we both think that, it's a position that could definitely upgrade it. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get into that, though, we wanted to address a few things that have been going on in the last couple of weeks that we haven't really talked about. We want to address the Kevin Warren press conference. Obviously, that's huge news for the Bears. And we also want to talk a little bit NFL playoffs. It is the offseason for the Bears, but it's not the offseason for the NFL just yet. So we want to talk a little bit about that as well. But starting with the Kevin Warren press conference, I'm a guy who I usually watch the press conferences, but it's usually like I have it on the background while I do something else. I don't put a whole lot of stock into it, but I thought this one was good because it signaled a change. I didn't really care what he said too much, but it signaled a change in approach for the Bears from previous years, where they're not hiring Ted Phillips, they're not hiring a buddy that they've had they're hiring a guy who actually has experience running a team. He has done it well with building stadiums with Minnesota. So I was really excited about just from that point. I didn't really matter what he said, but Luke, I'm curious to hear kind of your takeaways from that.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job. I think the best part, honestly, was just how different it was than hearing some of the Ted Phillips or the McCaskies, man. He had energy. He seemed sincere. He seemed like he actually cared. He didn't sound like a robot. I mean, I don't really have anything against the McCaskies or Ted Phillips, but they're just they're not really great interviewers, and especially when, even if you think they're making the right decision, they don't do a really good job explaining it or seem very forthcoming at all anyway. And Kevin Warren did. He said all the right things. He said that, he believes, and I think he said he believed in Justin Fields, and he said that he's committed to building something awesome in Arlington Heights. He didn't shy away from that, and he was just candid, and he seemed like a football guy. I think honestly, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, it was a reassuring press conference. He did a good job.
Yeah, I don't know how any Bears fan could watch that and be disappointed or upset about the hire. I think it was a home run all the way around. Yeah. Obviously, we won't know for sure for a few years, but I think even if it doesn't end in a Super Bowl, I think it's the right decision. It's a good move, and we're headed in the right direction. I did think that him kind of committing to Fields was good. He said he had a relationship with Fields from when he was the Big Ten commissioner. Yeah. So that was good to hear because I think, we were 99% sure that Fields is going to be the quarterback next year, but now I'm 100% sure there's not a single doubt in my mind. And then he basically told the city of Chicago, to go fuck themselves, and they're all in on Arlington Park, which we kind of knew already, but that's good to know too. They have a direction. They're excited about it. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know if there was many big takeaways from it. I think those are the big ones.
I mean, to some extent, on the day-to-day, the more important person to listen to would be a polls if you're a football fan. The stuff you're going to see from Ted Phillips is going to matter as far as the Chicago Bears, the business, more. Mm-hmm. But that's important too, and it looks like it's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the other takeaways you kind of hinted at there is that they said that polls will be reporting directly to Warren, and then Warren will report to the McCaskies. So I think I like how they have that dynamic set up. I think that's
at least
the right way to do it.
Yeah,
and it's clear about it. They're not hiding, and they're not. So we know exactly what the chain of command is. I think that's a good thing.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, other than that, you watch the playoffs this weekend? You get a chance to see them?
Little bit. It's we've kind of talked about this before. It's hard for me to watch the playoffs when the Bears are so bad, but I do try to watch at least a little bit of it. I'll definitely watch this weekend. But yeah, we got 49ers versus the Eagles. Chiefs versus Bengals. So 4 teams that, if you said at the beginning of the year those were going to be the 4 teams, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So I guess
Eagles at that level was probably a surprise, but these teams absolutely were
that's true.
The playoffs. Jalen Hurts took a big step to get to where they are, but I would say that you had to bet on them just from a roster point of view. If not maybe the 49ers, the Eagles roster is probably the best put together roster in the NFL. I'd say, at least, just from what wins in the NFL standpoint, pass rushers, the trenches, having good receivers, and having a good quarterback.
Yeah.
They hit it out of the park in those situations. And so do the 49ers. The 49ers were kind of they're on their third quarterback now that he's doing incredibly as well. And that's a testament to all that, the always draft a quarterback mantra.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that in my opinion, I think that's the game of the year. I think that'll be the funnest game. It feels like Brock Purdy's due for a stinker, right?
It absolutely does. I was just gonna say that. Like, Purdy is a very nice story. I'm very happy for him that he's defied odds. I think he's gonna be in the league for a very long time. I don't know how much longer the Brock Purdy hype train is gonna be on the rails, but I'm rooting for him. But I do like watching the Eagles from a Bears fan perspective because I think that's kind of the blueprint for the Bears offense. So if we're tying it into the Bears, like seeing Jalen Hurts run that offense, seeing how much Jalen Hurts benefited from getting a number one wide receiver in AJ Brown, too, is something that Bears fans keep an eye on, obviously. So I like watching them for that reason. And then I'm interested to see Purdy as well. But that'll definitely be. I think both these games are going to be really good games this weekend.
Does anybody want to see the Bengals right now, man? Joey Burr is scary.
That video of him throwing that pass, like the turnaround pass in slow motion, that was
so cool,
so clean. That was so cool. And I had people were tweeting out the video of Fields doing. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but it wasn't as cool in the white on white jerseys,
and the snow too. His video was cooler. It was interesting to see, but the thing is I had never seen any quarterback do that before, and then I see that, and then an hour later I see the Fields thing, and I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. But yeah, it should be. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the Chiefs Bengals too. I mean, Burrow's 3-0 against the Chiefs in the playoffs, or 2-0 at least, maybe going for 3-0, something like that. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if I had to put money down on it, and I might actually put down money on it, I would probably go with the Chiefs because I think the Chiefs are, if not underdogs, it's close because of Mahomes' injury.
Yeah, it shifted this morning. Okay. This morning it's shifted to. It's -1 Kansas City, but it's in
too
Kansas
late.
City.
Yeah.
So to some extent, usually home field advantage gives you +3. So to some extent, the money market is actually leaning toward Bengals as the favorites here.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I wonder do you know what the line for the Eagles 49ers game was by any chance?
See if I'll bring it up right now.
Yeah, we can bring it up. Yeah, but obviously the playoffs are always fun to watch. Again, it's more fun to watch when the Bears are decent, or definitely when the Bears are in it. But it's obviously something that you got to watch.
Philly -2.5.
Philly -2.5. I'm taking that.
So they're basically saying it's almost a dead even matchup if they were on a neutral field.
Yeah, I'm taking Philly -2.5 and Chiefs -1.5, whatever it was, all day. I feel like those are two easy bets.
Super Bowl right now, man.
What was that?
Is Philly going to the Super Bowl right now?
Could be. Very possible. I mean, like we said, I think Purdy's due for. Yeah, I think Purdy's due for a little regression to the mean here. So.
Yeah, right. He can't keep playing like that. He can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that is kind of like you've mentioned it. That's a reason to draft a quarterback every year. I mean. But at the same time, there are also other quarterbacks taken in the 7th round who got cut in the preseason.
100%. But you do it.
You never know. You never know who's going to be good.
Once a decade, you get the Brock Purdy. But then again, who's ever played bad in Shanahan's offense?
That's so true. Yeah, it's an easy offense very quarterback-friendly offense.
Yeah.
Similar offense to what the Bears run, but Mike Shanahan's a little bit better than Getsy, and definitely their offensive line is better than our offensive line.
All the tools.
But that's I guess so it's a blueprint from the Eagles standpoint with Jalen Hurts and running the football, and it's also a blueprint on the other side with that offense. That's kind of what the Bears want to do.
Dude,
that'll be definitely a fun game to watch.
Just being relentless.
Yeah.
Didn't need McCaffrey, and you get it, and it's like, holy smokes, these guys
gave up a lot for him. But yeah, but obviously, hey, if they win a Super Bowl, it's well worth it.
Yep, 100%. It's always worth it.
All right. What do you say we get into the cornerbacks class? That's kind of the whole reason we're doing these pods. Touched on those, the playoffs a little bit, but so the cornerback class. Let's start with the draft like we usually do. I don't know about you, but this is a tough cornerback class to rank for me because everyone's so good. I
have the same thought. There are so many. Man, I can't. I have 7 here that I think I haven't finished my list. You have yours finalized?
No. No, I was gonna literally come up. I have my guys, but I was gonna literally.
I have a 1.
I have
a 1.
You have a 1. I think I probably know who your 1 is. Can I guess?
Who's my 1?
Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah, I got Devin.
Okay. I think he's not my 1, but I think he's my 2.
Okay.
And he could be my 1 by. And you want to guess who my 1 is if it's not Devin Witherspoon?
I got 3 guys in the next tier, and honestly, you probably have Christian Gonzalez.
I do.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I like Christian Gonzalez. I got the.
I like Devin Witherspoon. Like I like both of them a lot.
Smooth.
Yeah.
He's got great.
Yeah, he's very fluid hips.
There's only 2 guys that I think I put as like great instincts, as opposed to like some guys have good instincts because they're always looking in the backfield, and some guys just have good feel, like to come off when they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And Christian Gonzalez is one of the guys I got great instincts on. He's sick.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Real fluid, like really athletic. Devin Witherspoon, kind of the same way, very instinctive. My only problem with Witherspoon, and I think the only reason I don't have him at 1, is because I watched some tape of him from 2021, and it was good, but it wasn't like first round draft pick good. And my only concern is he had his best year as a pro as a senior, and it's not quite as bad as like a Velus Jones when he's not 25 years old doing this, but that's the only thing that's keeping him from 1, because otherwise I think his 2022 tape is like really impressive. First round, top 15 easily. Yeah. But those 2 guys are really, really good. It'll be interesting to see where they go, because I think one of them will probably go top 10, like premium position. And it will be interesting to see if the Bears like traded back with the Raiders or the Panthers, or the Titans, like really far back like that, if the Bears would be interested in taking a corner that high.
At that like
because it is a really good corner class, and there's probably 3 guys I think could be like shut down number 1 corners. So do you do that, or because it's a really deep cornerback class, do you wait? I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. It's very possible if they traded down that a cornerback would be the highest rated player on their board at that point.
Yeah, I would say that they kind of have to stick to their best player available. And I think at that spot, there's going to be some dudes at the edge rushing position and at the defensive tackle position that they probably value more, so get pushed up their boards and are probably a similar rating.
Yeah, that's probably how I lean too.
So I think cornerback for us would be like if we do some trade that gets us an early 2nd round pick, the person that falls, because this is a really good corner class.
Yep. Yeah, there'll be some good
on if it's one of those things where because there's so many good ones, the run happens early, or because there's so many good ones, someone gets pushed into the 4th.
Yeah, exactly. There'll definitely be some really good corners if they get in the 2nd round with like when they pick at 53. Like there'll be good corners, at least 1 or 2 good corners there, guys who can start right away if they want to go that route. They don't, they might not. I'm sure it's a position they'll address in free agency.
Yeah.
Maybe not a huge signing, but you sign a solid starter who, if you don't get a good cornerback in the draft, he'll be good opposite Gordon and Jalen Johnson.
Yep.
So you had Witherspoon 1, I had Christian Gonzalez 1. I'm assuming, did you have Christian Gonzalez 2?
I did.
Okay, and I had Devin Witherspoon 2. So that's pretty chalk.
We can save our breakdowns. I think we agree. The only person I wrote down special beside was Devin Witherspoon, because his tape this year was special.
Yes, I agree.
He was just a freak. He was all over the place. Anytime he needed to be there, he was there. So and then who do you want to go first at 3? 3 gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I'll go there. Yeah, 3 could go a lot. I think 3 was actually easy for me. I think after 3 it gets a little bit tougher, but I have Joey Porter at 3. I really like Joey Porter. I really like how long he is.
Yeah.
I like how physical he is. Like, I think he's a guy he's not as good as Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon. And he was getting some cornerback 1 hype like early on in the year. And I think he's really good and has a chance to be like a cornerback 1, but I think he's never going to be like the best corner in the league. Like, he's going to be just a really solid corner for a long time. So I have him at 3, and I think it'd be interesting because I was looking at mock drafts and people have him going to Pittsburgh, which is obviously interesting because that's where his dad played. So, but I really like him. I watched his game. I remember watching the Purdue game live. It was like the first game of the week this year, and he was dominating. And it was so good. So I really like Joey Porter, but I don't know if the Bears are in a position to get him though.
I got
it's tough.
Honest to God, it's because the I have to go Joey Porter at 3 too.
Yeah.
And it's just because the blueprint is Sauce. They play so much alike, and I don't think that I'm not saying he's Sauce, but people are going to look at what Sauce did and say this translates in today's NFL. People playing more cover 2. And he's good at it, and he actually is so long, man. It's insane. He also has really good sense, it feels like to me, and I think he does a good job of peeling out of his zone when he needs to. But sometimes I think he can, and it's honestly, I think it's something that scares me a little bit of Christian Gonzalez as well, is that they're almost too twitchy reactive. And that, like, if you hit him with a sluggo or something like a stop and go, I feel like they both get a little grabby, and it's the reason why it's the reason why I wasn't sure. I honestly, there's a world where Joey Porter goes 2 on my list, just being that how he translates. But I don't even know if I really love him that much. Like I have like to some extent, as far as like a my guys kind of thing. Like there are guys that won't be in either of our top 5. Like the one out of TCU, Trevius Hodginson. He plays the game. He is like, I like the way his instincts and the way he plays the game way more than I like the way that Joey Porter plays. But to some extent, if he can, he has all the traits that like someone like a Sauce has. But if he can get him to translate, he really could project to be amazing.
Yeah, I think it with all these guys, positions, cornerback is a position that is very dependent on like what scheme you're running. So like press man teams will definitely want Joey Porter because he's got that length, he's got the size. Like you want him, but like maybe like a guy who I don't know, we might talk about later, like Keely Ringo. I view him as more of like a zone corner, even though he has the athleticism. He's just better with kind of seeing things in front of him. So it depends on like what you're running. But press man teams will definitely want Joey Porter. He could probably play zone too, but he'll probably be at his best in press man.
Yeah.
Witherspoon and Gonzalez, I think, are more scheme versatile. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's because they're better athletes.
Yeah. So, but there are definitely guys who are like that. Like Hodges Tomlinson is probably a slot guy. I like him too a lot too. He's
Bryce Callahan.
He's like 5'9". Yeah. He's just shorter, so he's probably a slot guy. But you need a slot guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we both got
this guy.
And he's got some funk to him, man. He's got that corner, that thing you just want in a corner. It's the same thing that honestly, you don't see it a huge amount in Christian Gonzalez, but Joey Porter's got some attitude. Devin Witherspoon's like a fireball. My next guy. Who's your next guy?
Shit.
Okay, I can go.
I think I got a fourth, but I think I got a fourth. I like Cam Smith.
Yep, I'm down for.
Okay, you were there for because I just liked how physical he was. Like he was just. Dude, I don't know if he's not an elite athlete, probably. And
he honestly isn't a bad athlete. He's got good hips. I think he's going to test well. It's because he's a little. I think he's a little smaller. I think he's like. I think he's like 5'11", maybe like 180.
Yeah, but I mean, size was not an issue at all for him. I thought he was really physical, good tackler. Like, not to mention, like
he'll get right up in there.
Yeah,
I like him. I honestly think. Go ahead.
You were kind of saying how like you like Travis Hodges Tomlinson's like your guy, even though you think Joey Porter's better. Like I think Joey Porter's better than Cam Smith, but I like watching Cam Smith.
I was just going to make the same comparison. It's another one of those guys that I honestly think plays the corner position better. But like if you can put Joey Porter in a position to succeed at a higher level in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So. Yeah.
Well, but maybe. I mean, this is just like we said. It's just a projection. They're not all going to be Sauce. And maybe come draft time, I'll change some of these up, especially if DC has something to move around the cones and stuff, because that's so important.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, the combine will be huge. I think Cam Smith is the guy who could really benefit from the combine, or maybe get knocked down a little bit from the combine, depending on how he tests and everything. But if he does maybe not have the best combine and is there in the second round at like 53 for the Bears, which would be a pretty big drop for him. So most likely not. But if that did happen, but for whatever reason, he'd be a guy I think that Eberflus would really like, his physicality and everything like that. So we'll see.
Number 5.
I don't have a 5, honestly.
I think honestly we could probably be better off listing just how many good candidates.
Yeah, just guys we like
the list first.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have Keely Ringo in my top 5.
I don't think I would have had him in my top 5. I mean, he was in contention for 5, but I don't think he would have been my 5.
Like he can.
His tape is bad. His tape is not good. He's just super athletic.
He is. He looks like a linebacker.
That's why I think.
Derek
That's why I said like I think he's would be really good in like a cover 3, like the Seahawks defense, where he can like sit back and just like react to things that are happening in front of him.
I will say he's got great moments, and honestly, he is surprisingly fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And like he could be.
No, he's athletic. Yeah.
He's not a guy that I think I could go as far as to say that, because he might stick us. He might go to the NFL and be great and just be a new prototype.
It's possible,
because I don't think there are many very good comps for a guy like him. Maybe someone like a Cam Chancellor. I mean, even that's safety.
That's safety, but yeah, I mean, I can kind of see what you're saying.
Like he's so broad, he looks like a linebacker.
I could definitely see a move to safety for him. I think that would possibly make sense. Teams might like him at safety, but even though he's super athletic, but I think just the way he plays and everything, and like we'll see. I don't think he would have been my 5 though. A guy that I haven't watched enough of, but I've heard good things, is Deontay Banks from Maryland.
Yeah, I watched Deontay Banks today, and I was like a little. I thought like if you do like the game tapes where it's snap in, snap out, he gets flagged a lot. You'd be surprised how many times he's getting flagged because he loses his coverage and he just holds. And on top of that, I'm not sure that I don't know what kind of athlete he is, but he's like he's awesome in run defense. If you need him to play press, he can. Like I see it. I'm just not there.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I brought him up is because I know a lot of people, like Dane Brugler had him at like 22 in his mock or something, 23 in his mock, and I didn't even really like hear of him too much. And I was like, oh, that's someone I got to watch. And I think a lot of mocks had him in the first round now. So I was like, oh, okay, that's the guy I got to watch. But he's big and
good size.
I don't know, but I haven't watched him. All I know is that he's 6'2".
Yeah, he's like 6'2", people like him, probably like 195. He's good.
Yeah, guy I got to watch.
Like yeah, no, he's good. He is good. I just think that I don't know. I think he's a great football player. I don't know how great of he is, like as a just straight cover corner.
Okay.
He looked extremely fluid. But then again, I only got to watch like 2 games of him.
Yeah. It's so hard because like sometimes
Maryland too.
You watch one game, you're like, that was really good, but that might have been the best game that guy's had or the worst game that guy's had, and so you got to definitely watch multiple games.
He didn't make mine, although I did check him out. Another guy that missed it too was I don't know if maybe I have Christian G as my 1A and Portman 1B, and Cam Smith is 2A. Yeah, I mean, like that's not like as far as like a my guys thing, that's a totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put Devin Witherspoon in there, and I think the top 4 for me was pretty. I don't want to say easy, but the top 4 was easy. The order of those 4 was difficult.
First four guys I got written down of those 4, and then
what's up, Bradley?
Yeah, how we doing, brother? Yeah. Who do you got at 5? You got a 5?
I don't. I'll say I don't know where I have it, but a guy I liked at least a little bit was Emmanuel Forbes. From Mississippi State, I believe. He's tall, lanky, athletic. Yeah, but not good in run support. Like not good. Not physical.
He's not physical at all. But honestly, I think he's as far as like playing the corner position thing, he really checks a lot of boxes for me. The thing is he didn't like. I wanted to see more like really special plays, and I really just didn't.
Yeah. He's got good ball skills.
And he is a good cover corner, and he's long, but he is thin. When he gets the ball in his hands, he actually is a slasher, fully like a threat to take it back 100%. I was surprised he wasn't used on return more, but it seemed like all of his highlights when he did that were like bad throws or tip passes. Like I'd like to see him make some more plays. I thought so. He wasn't number 5 for me either.
Yeah, I think he might be number 5 for me. I don't know. I have to watch more Deontay Banks. But I think he would be, or another guy who probably is 5 is Clark Phillips.
Oh, see, I haven't got a chance to work Clark.
I liked him because I think he played really low in his back. His back pedal was real tight, and he played low in his stance, so he was able to get that click and close very effectively. So I liked Clark Phillips. Didn't love.
He's at Utah.
Utah, yeah. I think it's a deep class. Like most years, like Forbes, Phillips, Banks, Ringo, those guys would be, for
yeah. I had Garrett Williams just outside the top 5 too. I'm here for the Witherspoon.
As well, like Witherspoon. Yep, we talked Witherspoon. Not a fan of Clark Phillips, but that's okay.
Yeah. My number 5 is Eli Ricks.
Eli Ricks. Okay, another guy who I've only watched a little bit of. He's like a redshirt sophomore that people kind of weren't expecting him to declare. So I haven't really watched a lot of him.
And he played for LSU last year. So the last 2 years, he's only played like 400 snaps. But when he's on the field, bro, instincts through the roof. He's so strong, even though he's really not that much bigger, like different size than some of the other guys in this class. He's got really, really good instincts, and he's just a playmaker. Like he's a good run defender. I thought he checked a lot of boxes. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being like a first or a second round pick. Okay. He's a bit of a projection, and because of that, he might get pushed because I think he only played 300, 400 snaps last 3 years.
Yeah.
But I think Eli Ricks is gonna be a great player. I think he's gonna go to the combine and surprise some people.
Yeah. Yeah, but listen, teams didn't throw towards Clark Phillips. Basically, what he's saying. That's kind of what I saw too. I didn't see a lot of plays on the ball. I just watched like maybe 3 games, but I didn't see him much.
Point, to be honest, maybe that's a feather in someone like an Emmanuel Forbes cap. Is that he's not making those plays just because some people know like, I'm just not going to that guy.
Yeah, but this one has a question: if you're a cover 2 team, do you go Ringo or Witherspoon? I mean, I think we kind of talked about this earlier. Witherspoon's pretty scheme dependent. We said, like, I don't know if there's going to be a team that be like, okay, well, I don't think there's going to be a team that says Witherspoon doesn't fit what we're trying to do. Ringo, I think there is going to be that a little bit. I mentioned that you might have jumped out a little bit late, but I mentioned I like him for like a cover 3 team, where you could kind of see the ball in front of him and kind of attack. Because I did not like his tape at all from like a man coverage perspective. See,
I differ with you there. I honestly thought that some of his cover 2 press, like where he probably has like 18 yards of depth, and then after that he's allowed to pass it off. I thought he had some nice plays, like knowing where his zone ended and just being able to like perfectly cover that space, like take that, like had a couple picks in that zone, but also be able to crash down on the runner. I think if especially considering how strong he is, if he had to take on a cover 2 role, I don't think that I think he'd do a pretty all right job. Maybe I'm talking myself into Keeler Ringo more, to be honest. But if you had to pick one, I'd pick Witherspoon.
I mean, I'd pick Witherspoon in a vacuum, though. I do think, Ringo could also be in like a cover 2 defense for sure. I think a zone defense is better for him, in my opinion.
If he's having to run with a crosser, he's in trouble.
Yeah, which is weird because he's athletic and he's gonna blow up the combine probably.
But, I know, but
I just didn't love him.
He's just big enough to get picked on those pick routes. He's not slashing through like some of the little corners, and like someone that runs like a 4.3 is gonna run away from him, I would say. And like not if it's just as long as it's not a straight line. I don't know if but I did say he is surprisingly fluid. Maybe
you're talking yourself into Keeler.
I know. I haven't got around to Bangley yet.
I asked anyone watch Makai Gardner from LSU. I have watched a little Makai Gardner. I liked him. I thought he was another guy. I like physical corners. I think Makai Gardner is physical. He can come up and tackle. Like that's what I like in corners, which maybe is outdated and everything. But I like it. I just because
it's difficult, man. It feels like big corners are coming back.
Yeah. So I like him. I shouldn't say a lot. I like him. I don't know. I wasn't blown away by anything he did, but he's definitely someone that I'll be watching. I don't know if he's going to be like in the Senior Bowl, East West Shrine game or anything, but definitely keep an eye on him as the process goes. Another guy I really like, if we're talking about like my guys, and we haven't mentioned him yet, and I want to watch more. All these corners I need to watch more on, but a guy I liked from what I saw was Caillou Blue Kelly from Stanford.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. He went up. I watched one of the games that specifically stands out was against USC, and he was going up against Jordan Addison, and he was really physical with him in press. And he has long arms, and he was disruptive to Jordan Addison. That game actually maybe like Jordan Addison had some good moments in that game, but that game actually maybe like Jordan Addison a little bit less because I saw how Blue Kelly was kind of giving him some fits, especially at the line of scrimmage. So I really liked that. I think he's going to be a guy who I think if this wasn't such a deep cornerback class, he'd be talked about as like a late first round pick, something like that, early second round pick. But because it's so good, he's being pushed down to like second, third round, and I think you got to steal at that point with that guy.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I think I like that the Bears took as many shots as they did in the defensive back room last year, and I think that it's probably worth them continuing to do so. So in the second round, especially if we recoup some picks, like there's going to be like someone like a Jalen Jones, like we said, like a Trevius Hodges Tomlinson, someone like that falls. Even like one of the guys we've talked about, like an Eli Ricks or like you know, well, it depends on how much the consensus changes here. But if someone like a Cam Smith gets out of the first round, which there probably isn't going to be 5 corners taken in the first round, 4 corners taken in the first round.
Yeah. Here, so I put together this spreadsheet I looked at some mock drafts. I'm going to share it here. So this is the cornerback position. But I looked at a bunch of mock drafts, and I put together a spreadsheet based on position, which order they were drafted in by position, what pick number they were, and their most drafted team. So the cornerback was the most interesting one to look at because there was not a consensus on who the top cornerback was. So if you see here, like Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter, Devin Witherspoon in different mocks, all with the first cornerback taken. But in other mocks, they were all the 5th cornerback taken. So like this was a position where there was not really a consensus, but you can see so on average they had about like 6 cornerbacks or maybe is that 7 cornerbacks on average are going in the first round, which I don't think is going to happen. Wow. So that would mean that like some of these guys here might be dropping. We didn't talk about Tyreek Stevenson from Miami, but like him too.
Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. So I put this together. I'm going to share it on Twitter. I shared some screenshots, but I'm actually going to share the spreadsheet. I'm going to be updating this as we go. But you can kind of see where players are going and everything.
That's awesome. Devin Williams, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I wonder. Yeah,
it's a weird position, and I think honestly, like I would say, if there's a position that I'm bad at scouting, it's probably corner.
Is this saying that
I don't think.
Forbes,
I think
there was a time when Emmanuel Forbes was the 9th cornerback taken.
Yes. So someone had Emmanuel Forbes as the 9th cornerback taken. I don't know.
Someone
see, that's like it's all over the board. Pick. Someone had Jalen Jones as a first round pick. Like, yeah. So it's crazy. He had the biggest spread of anyone.
And so it looks like, and everybody thinks that Detroit's taking a corner, huh?
Yes. Yeah. That Christian Gonzalez, or I think Devin Witherspoon also went to Detroit a lot. But yeah, I corner, like if we go other positions, it's more like you can see that it's more there's a consensus.
It doesn't take as many bodies to like fill out your interesting.
Yeah, there's a consensus, like at least like sometimes players will go in different orders, but there's a pretty consensus on the order of most other positions. This one, it's all over the place, so it'll be interesting to see.
Wow.
So
yeah, that'll be cool. We have this is something we could review with Jacob next week. It'd be cool to kind of hear what he thinks about some of the consolidation and otherwise on some of those.
Definitely. Yeah, so that's a good kind of introduction to next week. So next week we have the East West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl next weekend. So we're having Jacob Infante come on from Windy City Gridiron. Really excited to talk to him. Great draft guy. So we're going to talk those games of the week.
The draft process.
I'm sure you guys already do follow him, but yeah, if you don't, definitely do that. He's actually going to be in Mobile at the Super Bowl.
Mobile, isn't it?
Mobile, yeah, not Mobile. So he's going to be there actually covering the Senior Bowl. So I'm really excited to hear kind of like who he's looking out for and everything like that. So that'll be fun. So we'll be talking about all these guys and everything. So
yeah.
Anyone else on cornerbacks? I mean, there's like DJ Turner, Garrett Williams,
intriguing. Actually, I think
Jalen Jones.
What's the on your little sheet? How high is Garrett Williams? I shouldn't say little sheet. I'm demonstrative.
Wow, I'm offended. No.
Yeah.
So he was actually only included in one mock draft, and he went 32nd. So first pick in the second round.
Okay. Yeah.
So some of the mock drafts had like 2 rounds. Some of them only had 1. So,
right. Yeah.
Most of them only had 1 at this point, but
yeah, it's crazy that 2 rounds that there were some of those drafts that had 9 of them going.
There's one draft. I mean, this Eli Ricks at one point went 11th. There were 11 cornerbacks taken the first 2 rounds in that draft. I don't know who that was, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good position this year.
100%. I think the Bears need to take a shot at that in the first 3 rounds, without a doubt. There's just too much talent. If the board plays to them, there should be someone great available for them. It kind of feels like the same with edge, but this is something I want to see the Bears definitely take a shot at. unless
Yeah,
they take
for
a really
sure.
big move in if they take a really big move in free agency or like a trade, the defensive back room really only needs 2 more pieces for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We kind of touched on that earlier. Like, we think that cornerback is going to be definitely a position that they address in free agency,
Yep.
whether that's a top guy or just a starter that they'll feel comfortable with. We don't know that yet, but that's a good segue to kind of the free agency class, because I think you can't go into the draft with
a need like that.
With a need like that with what's his name, man? I'm blanking on our cornerback's name.
Jalen Jones?
Kindle Vildor. You can't go into the draft with Kindle Vildor as your starting cornerback, so they have to sign someone. So I'm looking at right now, I'm on PFF, looking at their top 7 cornerbacks. They got Jamel Dean from Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's always the name that comes up.
Yeah, James Bradbury from Philadelphia, Cam Sutton from the Steelers, Patrick Peterson from the Vikings, Jonathan Jones from New England, Byron Murphy from Arizona, and Marcus Peters from Baltimore.
Yep.
Yeah, so Jamel Dean's definitely at the top of the class there. I don't know if they're going to spend I don't know. They definitely could, because the only thing that kind of complicates this a little bit is they have to, or could potentially be giving a contract to Jalen Jones soon.
Yep.
And also Kyler Gordon is obviously, if he turns out to be good, you're going to give him a contract too. So you're going to pay 3 corners top tier. I don't know. But I mean, he's definitely the best corner available. So if that's the route they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think you still got at least 2 years before you have to have the conversation with Kyler Gordon. Right. In that time, you should also definitely be taking your shots in the draft, no matter what, just because of how important the position is. I don't think that you need to worry about like money down the line will matter, but you can also do like a 4-year deal with any of these guys and make your decisions on someone like a Jalen Johnson or a Kyler Gordon. In that time, you only need one of them to some extent.
Yeah.
And to that, like, I think I've seen, at least so far, as the cornerback market doesn't look like it's going to be that aggressive this offseason. Like, some of the numbers I've seen for some of the top guys haven't been as intimidating, I guess, as I once thought it was going to be. And we have the money to spend.
And maybe that's because it's such a great draft class. Maybe teams are like, hey, we could pay premium money for Jamel Dean or all these other guys, or we could draft Christian Gonzalez, Stephen Witherspoon in the first round, or we could draft, Keely Ringo in the second round or something like that. Like, there are options. So maybe that might bring the prices down a little bit. But Poles has said that cornerback is a premium position.
Yep.
So they're going to address this heavily. They're going to go do their due diligence on all these guys. And I expect them to sign. Maybe it's not Jamel Dean, but like a top 3-4 corner.
Even if it was someone like a Pat Peterson, who had a nice little rebound. He's obviously still got some gas. I mean, some like air in the tires. I think kind of do like a 2-year deal with him. That would be kind of a good little bridge while you work out what you have in the other guys, in Kyler Gordon, in Jalen Johnson.
That's not a bad idea, because you signed a guy, Patrick Peterson or James Bradbury, who's a little bit older, to a shorter deal.
Yep.
And then by the time that contract is over, if you sign him to a 2-year deal, you'll know what you have in Kyler Gordon. You'll know if Kyler Gordon is really good and you need to sign him to extension, you can. If he's bad and you need to draft another cornerback, you can do that too. So that might make more sense.
You could also, if you want to go something like a James Bradbury route, you could sign him to a 2-year and then just add a little extra money that he would get otherwise, because you probably can as the Bears. I think we have close to double the next person. You could offer him a fairly healthy 2-year, and he's at a good enough time in his career where you could sign him to a 2-year and find out in year 2 you want James Bradbury for another 4 years, and then just do that, and just be able to take that many kicks at the can kind of thing. And I think Poles has shown that he'll do that. Like, he's pretty good about that second wave, short. Shorter contract for some players where it's like, if you play to your upside, you're going to make this team a real contender. If you play to your downside, I'm not tied to you a whole lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be, God, what was I just going to say? Zoned out there for a second.
Bit of a tangent.
It's been a long day at work. It's been a very long week at work. Very, very busy. That's why I would reschedule this one. But yeah, no, I forgot what I was going to say. Moving on.
But yeah, there's some other ones there. I think a couple fit the mold of.
Yeah. Anyone you think that you like beyond those top guys?
I got the list here in front of me. Let's see. I feel like I'm not seeing the whole list here because I thought some other guys here. Let me bring up this list.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the PFF list, just their top 7. But yeah, it was Marcus Peters, Byron Murphy, Jonathan Jones, Patrick Peterson, Cam Sutton, James Bradbury, Jamel Dean.
Cam Sutton. Interesting.
Cam Sutton from the Steelers, yeah.
Yeah. He's never really been like a top of the market guy, but I think for the right price, you could get a good. I don't think he's ever been. Every time I've got to watch Steelers games, he's played well.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think he's a solid starter. Like, he's not going to be a guy who like changes your entire defense, but he's definitely a solid number 2 corner who's not going to kill you, and that might be what kind of the direction they would prefer to go. Maybe depending on what their opinion of Jalen Johnson is. If they think Jalen Johnson's that number 1 corner lockdown guy, who we've seen him do that at times, he needs to be more consistent. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to think that. They might want to go with a Cam Sutton or someone that, who's just going to be solid and lock up that number 2 position. So we'll see.
I think you make a big deal for Jamel Dean. He's been nothing but consistent his whole time with the Bucks. He's probably like the best cornerback at that age going into free agency. So you take a shot at him. If you aren't able to get him though, like even something like a Pat Peterson, I think makes sense for the Bears. He'd be your number 2 outside corner. You'd kind of be betting on the upside of him coming off like an injury. He's never been great, but he can make a play for your defense. And, like we said, he'd be another easy one that would give us that window to evaluate Kyler Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember what I was going to say earlier. The other thing you do with Jamel Dean or any of these guys is you can really front load those contracts because they have so much money nowadays. So maybe that they're not even concerned about that too much because they'll just pay them now and not worry about the later years in any contract they're signing if they are signing like an older guy or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the deals we see handed out this year
are like really heavy in the first 2 years and kind of give 2024 as a reset period for the franchise. Because that would be if these moves don't work, that would be kind of the end of the Justin Fields saga if it didn't work. Because if it does work, we're going to need to pay him there and get money off the books anyway. And if it doesn't work, we're going to need to move on from him and kind of blow it up to some extent. So I would imagine that most of the deals we see in this offseason are loaded in a way that if they wanted to move on in 2024, it'd be favorable. Versus sometimes there are some contracts where it's like up until this amount, if you try and move on, it'll really screw the team.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Front heavy deals.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to front load it, all the deals. It just makes sense from a business perspective based on where they are. And they also, they're going to be moving to a new stadium in 2026. So some extra cash there is probably a good thing. All that stuff. Ray Lisbo, not a fan of Patrick Peterson.
No, PP. I thought he played nicely this year.
Yeah, he did play nicely. I think he definitely had a career resurgence. Like, he was not the cornerback that he was in Arizona early in his career, but he had a very nice year, and he's older, so you probably get him on cheap. I'm not opposed to it at all, but I think there's also a possibility that was his last year, one last run for him, and then he's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah,
but that will reflect in the contract that he gets.
Yeah, exactly. It'll depend on what kind of contract he's looking for too. Some players like a Saquon are a little bit more realistic, and he could think to himself, "Hey, that was one of the better years of my career. Like, I want to go get some money for it."
Yeah, I bet that's what he's going to do.
Which is, that's his prerogative. But it's he'd be another good one in that, like, he's been in a bunch of winning situations, like teams that have been good playoff teams. This year, he was on a couple of great Arizona Cardinals teams. He'd be a good person just as far as culture and buying in, and I would imagine that he'd be a great fit for the Flus mentality of just working hard, being around the ball. I think I like the fit. It just depends if the number's right.
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think, like you said, he brings experience, something they probably need on the back end, especially if Eddie Jackson's not ready to play right away, which who knows, he probably will be. But yeah, I think that makes all the sense in the world. Another thing to talk about, with Jamel Dean, at least, maybe not Patrick Peterson, definitely not Patrick Peterson, but Jamel Dean might get franchised. It's certainly possible that they decide to franchise tag him and he doesn't even hit free agency. I a guy that young, that seems to make a little bit of sense. But I think if he does, that's the play. It's a premium position. He's one of the younger guys in free agency, I believe. I don't remember how old he is, but look that up. And it just makes sense. He's only 26. He doesn't turn 27 until midway through the year next year. So it makes sense from a timeline perspective. It makes sense from a talent. It makes sense from a positional perspective that they kind of go hard after him. And then it allows you to address other positions in the draft. Then if they want to stay, in that top 4 with the Colts and get Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, kind of what else?
Yeah. On the topic of the Colts too, I think Rock Ya-Sin is a free agent this offseason. And honestly, I think he's been above average corner his whole time in the league, and he got drafted by a Eberflus defense. So I'd imagine there's that connection, and he's only like 26 too. He could be a nice little bridge quarterback while we find out about Kyler. Yeah,
familiar with Eberflus? Like, I'm sure Eberflus knows everything about him. So if Eberflus likes him, he'll be a Chicago Bear probably.
Yeah, I mean,
he's available. He knows the system. Yeah, no, he won't be super expensive.
I thought he had a good year because he played for the Raiders this year. I thought
he's always a guy I think who's just been like real solid, but he's moved around a lot. But
100%.
But he's just been solid. Like that's a good guy to have.
He was traded. He was part of that Yannick Ngakoue trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he went to the Raiders, and I thought he had a nice year there, despite all the chaos that I think was going on there. And he's familiar with the system. I think he was like he was almost a first-round pick back in the day. I'd kick the tires on a Rock Ya-Sin. He'd be a guy I think that would be great where it's like if you still want to draft a guy in the draft, if you get a Rock Ya-Sin and draft somebody, your cornerback room is so competitive now.
It doesn't prevent you from drafting a guy at all. Like if you go with Jamel Dean, you're probably not drafting a quarterback until like round 3 or 4 at the earliest. Yep. But yeah, if you're Rock Ya-Sin, you can still draft a guy in the second round if you wanted to. You got a lot of flexibility there.
It's kind of a shame that we're talking about drafting a cornerback in the first round after having drafted a cornerback in the second round with Jalen Johnson last year.
I know, but it's such a valuable position that I don't think you could ever have too many good young cornerbacks on your team.
I know.
So
it was the reason why I defended the move back at that time. It was like, you just can't have too many good DBs on your team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The only other thing to talk about is trades.
I don't see them trading for a cornerback.
I don't know.
What if someone do you have anyone available that you think?
What if someone like a Jalen Ramsey was available?
I mean, I would love it.
If you're reading the tea leaves, I don't know if that guy's going to be a Ram next year.
Oh, I believe that. I don't think he's going to be on the Rams. I don't know if he's going to be on the Bears though, but I don't think he's going to be on the Rams.
You wouldn't want him on the Bears?
Oh, I would love to have him on the Bears. I don't know if the Bears are going to give up what the Rams want to give.
But we have some stuff to give up. Like we have, I suppose, to be honest, us trading our second kind of put us in a tough spot. But like, I mean, I don't know what it would take. He's got a pretty strong contract. What if we offered a second next year?
I mean, I can't even begin. I'm not good at speculating on trade.
I know it's tough.
It's so tough.
Surprised by how little someone gets, like an Amari Cooper, and then someone
and then other guys.
Yeah.
So let's just say the price tag is a second next year. Yeah, I'd probably do that.
Would you prefer that to taking a shot in the draft and signing a Rock Ya-Sin? Or
I think I would prefer to sign Jamel Dean just to a big contract because it just costs you money. Like I prefer to do that, but I prefer to trade like a second round pick for Ramsey than use a second round pick on a corner, for sure. Because you get a sure thing. You get a sure thing stud. Like
I know. Imagine that. It would instantly go from being something we're tripping about taking care of to one of the biggest strengths in the team. Jalen Johnson's your second best cornerback.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And Kyle Gordon in the slot, if he takes the steps that we think he's going to do, that's a really good cornerback room. Plus, you got Brisker and Eddie Jackson, hopefully, if he's healthy, on the back end of the safeties. That's a pretty good DB room.
If it took a second-round pick next year, then you spend the rest of your money in free agency and all your picks just rushing the passer and protecting Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, man, like low-key, if he's available, the Bears should make that a priority. Because what's his contract?
Yeah. I don't know. But, I mean, the Rams are going to be blowing it up. Like, they have to, right? Like, so they'll have a fire sale probably, but they're not going to just give Jalen Ramsey away. My guess is that someone would give up a first-round pick to get Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, we're not going to give up the first overall pick for him. So
I know. How old is Jalen Ramsey?
It's another good question. He's got to be close to 30 now, right?
He's not 30.
28, 29.
Yeah.
He's been in the league for it.
But if
I also wouldn't be surprised if he's like younger than we think too.
If he's 28,
28. He's 28 only. Turns 29 in October next year.
That guy's been the best cornerback in the NFL for 4 years, and he's 28 years old.
Yeah.
You wouldn't trade a first-round pick for that next year?
Would I trade next year's first-round pick? Oh, God. See, I don't like trading first-round picks because I feel like
I'll tell
you this.
Never been the guys getting first-round picks.
Exactly, and it's never obviously worked out for us. I think we don't have enough information right now to be trading future first-round picks. If we're a piece away, if we build this roster up and are a piece away, I'm willing to trade a first-round pick. But I'm not willing to trade a first-round pick to get into playoff contention, if that makes sense. Like I want to be one piece away and get that guy, not, hey, if we get this guy, we might make the playoffs kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Especially considering you trade a first for Jalen Ramsey, and then you find out that Justin Fields isn't the guy this year. Trading that first for Jalen Ramsey was the ammunition that you needed to actually go up and get your guy of the future next year. It's tough. Right. Yeah. I'd buy a Jalen Ramsey jersey if you got traded to the Bears. And I don't usually buy jerseys. I bought a Fields, and then this offseason just scared me, man.
It's the last one I bought, and I came to the realization that I'm too old to continue to buy jerseys, so I think this might be my last one for a while. But if they traded for Jalen Ramsey, maybe.
I'm gonna keep next time. It'll be a 4 Pro Bowl minimum. You got to make 4 Pro Bowls with this before I get your jersey.
I think that's a good rule.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to get to some questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, we've got some of the chat here. Balismo blowing it up, so we'll try to address some of these. I saw this one. Steve Luke, am I the only one who has major concerns over Jalen Carter? I see the flashes, but I see a lot of flat-out bottom half work. I also share concerns about Jalen Carter.
Yep.
I think I've seen kind of what you've posted on Twitter, Balismo, and I agree with a lot of it, and I saw your video as well. I do think he has some issues that he needs to clean up, but I also see the immense potential that he has, how strong he is, and how quick he is. And everything like that, and I'm willing to bet on Jalen Carter being a successful pro. In the event, I would absolutely take him at 4 if you trade down with the Colts. But I do see have some concerns as well. I remember watching the Oregon tape against Oregon, and he actually had a good game on Oregon. Everyone always shares that one play where he just knocks over the right tackle and tackles the guy in the backfield. But there are also times where he gets blown away by double teams, and I think it's just technique issues, and he's only a redshirt sophomore, so he's still young. Like, get him with Eberflus, who's worked with good D tackles, and I think Jalen Carter can be the best D tackle in football.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the best kind of way to look at it, I think those plays of a little bit of it looks like his motor runs out exist, but you're going to get him in an Eberflus system. Likely an Eberflus system, because it looks like Eberflus will be around to stay. You're going to get him in the system for 4 years. He's going to learn to work hard in the team. If he just needs to take less reps, that's what he'll do. But he won't have reps when he's out there half-assing it. Yeah. The Bears will do their due diligence there. They're going to talk to Georgia's coaching staff. They're going to talk to Jalen Carter himself and ask about that, because it is something that you see. Yeah.
Like, was this an issue of you having that ankle injury and just kind of, not being up, not having your conditioning up to the level it needed to be? Or is it an issue of him just being lazy? That's a concern that they should have. And, but I'm guessing that was more of an injury thing, kind of easing his way back into it. So we'll see. But I still think I'm still a Jalen Carter believer. And I think I think he will be the pick for the Bears. It's almost like I kind of already considered Jalen Carter a Bear, because
if you look at your Excel sheet on D tackles, it would probably have the Bears drafting him 90% of the time.
He is the most drafted team is the Chicago Bears for Jalen Carter. Yes.
Is there any other prospect we're also the most drafted team for?
We are no. I think Will Anderson, we were a couple of them, but Arizona is the most drafted team. I think that was it.
Yeah.
That was really the only one that we like. I don't think there was another mock draft that had us taking anyone besides Jalen Carter or Will Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, why would we?
Yeah. All right, other questions. Bellismo again. Here we go. Coming away with the draft with Voorhees, Schmitz, and Darnell Washington. We've talked about Voorhees and Schmitz. We both like both of those guys a lot. I think Voorhees was like a top 5 guard for me, and Schmitz was both in our top 5 interior offensive linemen, I believe. Yeah. So I like Schmitz a lot. I like Darnell Washington too. I think he gets a little bit overhyped, but I still like him a good amount. I saw a tweet the other day about someone asking if it makes sense to move. Actually, it wasn't a tweet. Sorry. It was Dane Brugler on the Athletic podcast talking about teams wanting to move Darnell Washington to offensive tackle. And I was like, I actually kind of like that.
So much of his athleticism, though.
I know. But he's such a good blocker. And I think, honestly, I think he could be a really good tight end of this league. Or at least like a good tight end. I think he could, if he wanted to, he could be the best left tackle in football.
Like, I see what you mean.
But that's a lot of projection. But I thought it was just an interesting thing. But I do like Darnell Washington as a tight end. I think the Bears will like him too. Good blocker. I don't know if his skill set. I mean, obviously he's more athletic than Kmet, but they're both like more blocking first, receiving second. So not sure if they'll love him. But so is that. We had some questions from Twitter too. Let me pull that up. I'm Twitter handle at MWJMagos. How have previous teams built up their O-line? I worry we still think D first, and that with the draft options available, this will prevent us from getting proper support for Justin. So building the O-line, how have other teams done it? I remember I saw a tweet the other day, probably a month ago now. It was like the best left tackles in football, or best tackles in football, left or right, and I think 8 out of the 10 were first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple there's a third-round draft pick, Teron Armstead, and there was someone else too. So most of the top tackles in football are first-round draft picks. Obviously, we got Braxton Jones and question marks at right tackle. Yep. Is it possible we drafted Paris Johnson in the first round? Maybe. Probably be the only guy we draft there. Maybe Skoronski, depending on your opinion on him and where he's playing. Yeah. But I think most teams, if you look at some of the better teams in football, they might not necessarily always draft offensive linemen high, but I would bet you that they draft offensive linemen every year. And,
I was going to say that.
And like relatively high, like day 2 picks at least.
Yep. It seems to me that it's just like the teams that do it great, the teams like the Eagles or the teams like the 49ers, are just relentless, always adding pieces to that room. And like to some extent, they also benefit from in the last little bit, their hit rate has been so good. So you got to have good scouting. But just taking shots at those positions and like using and like, kind of like tier ranking your resources and realizing a high percentage of this needs to be offensive linemen every year.
Yeah, I agree. Bellismo just clarified he meant Darnell Wright, not Darnell Washington. Yes, we also love Darnell Wright.
Yeah, we do. I kind of thought you meant it when you mentioned the other 2 offensive linemen, and it's almost, wouldn't it be nice if we got 3 of the best offensive linemen prospects?
Yeah, but no, we both love Darnell Wright. I had Darnell Wright as my offensive tackle 1. I like him better than Paris Johnson. I think he's more pro ready. I think Paris Johnson Paris Johnson has a higher ceiling for sure. But I like Darnell Wright a lot.
Oh no, I actually have to get going here soon.
Okay. I think we just have one more question. Thoughts on linebacker Carlton Marshall of Troy? Real quick. Yeah, he's real. I've watched only just a little bit of him, but I know a good amount of him because I looked him up. But like, he's a linebacker for Troy, and he's 5'9", 210 pounds. So he's moving to safety in the NFL. Like, no questions asked. No questions asked. Moving to safety, and I think he's a tackle machine. Makes a ton of tackles, but is not that great in coverage. And if he's moving to safety, that's only going to be worse at safety. So I think he's a guy who could be a really good special teams player. For sure, but I don't know if he's ever going to be anything in terms of defense there. But I just want to make sure we got to that question. But we are running low on time. Yeah, so we're about an hour here. So I think we're probably at a good stopping point. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back next week, as I mentioned, with Jacob Fonte. Really looking forward to that, talking East West Shrine Bowl and
cool to talk Senior Bowl
and Senior Bowl. So really excited for that. That'll be fun. So talk to everyone then. In the meantime, bear down, everyone.